Hello, agentpreneurs, and welcome to episode 87 of the Daily List Report. Oh, this is awesome. So early on in this show, way back when we didn't have any subscribers and we weren't getting a lot of views, we had a guest on. Her name is Vanessa Sestina, and she is a certified positive psychology practitioner. What does that mean? It means she deeply understands mindset and how, as we are all wrestling with these very challenging times right now, to reframe how we think and to do it in a positive manner. And if there's one thing I believe in, it's the ability to reframe your thinking, to be positive, to bring that energy into what you do. It is critical for success. Success, sorry. I really can't say these words, but that's okay. She does a lot better job than I do. So I'm really excited to replay this episode for you. If you watched it before, watch it again. If you haven't seen it, please take the time to do it. She gives an amazing framework for how to reframe your thinking into positivity, and the impact that that can have is unbelievable. So without further ado, here's Vanessa. Vanessa, why don't you say hi to our agentpreneurs of ListRaports?
Hi, agentpreneurs. I'm so excited to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's honestly, it's our pleasure. I'm excited to hear, to have you tell sort of your story and talk about real life resilience. But before you do that, Vanessa, what I'd love for you to do is, we're really fond at ListRaports of talking about the why, right? So talk a little bit about your why. How did you get into this, and let the audience get to know you a little bit.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, my why is definitely my guiding North Star. So I appreciate that. To give you a little bit of background about me, the bulk of my career was spent in internal communications and employee engagement. And I really love that work. I also, as a young adult, I unexpectedly developed some chronic health conditions. And as my career was advancing, it was getting more and more difficult to kind of manage those two aspects of my life. And after the birth of my second child, who's now about a year and a half, my illnesses just took a real turn for the worst. And I felt like things were kind of spiraling out of control. And I had an inflection point, a decision point. I wasn't able to return to the job that I had before, which I could have, gone back into that space once I had recovered. And what I decided to do instead was to move into a different direction. And it had been on the back burner, a goal of mine, later down the road, to become a coach and consultant to help organizations really support their people. So again, I was on the communication side of the house, but I wanted to work directly with people to help develop them to be their best selves. And so with this unexpected kind of speed bump in my life, and also being the mother of two young children, I decided to rework my career into something that would be a better fit for my lifestyle, to be my own boss. And I went back and got some certifications in positive psychology, and now moved into the space of coaching and consulting. So it was a big catalyst. I turned something that was tough into, fueling me to move forward.
Well, that's great. And what a great message for the current times as well. And one of the things, we talked about yesterday, Vanessa, that I think will resonate with a lot of the agents out there is that, you also got into this because it allowed you flexibility and freedom to be able to take care of your personal needs. And, a lot of agents out there did this for the same thing, right? It's an empowering career because you can create your own schedule. You're building your own business. That's why we call them agentpreneurs, right? A play on the word entrepreneur. So I think that's a really interesting connection between, your why and I think the why for a lot of agents out there. So what I want to do, Vanessa, is you've put together a great presentation, and I'm going to basically just get out of the way. I'm not going to add any value here, and I'm going to let you take over. And so let me just introduce the concept for everybody. So let me pull this up on the screen. So we've got real life resilience is the topic. And bolster your resilience to emerge from COVID-19 even stronger than before. And you already had this presentation, right? This is what we've been talking about, is this idea that it's a mindset that you're going to come out of this situation and circumstance better than you entered it. So with that, I'm going to advance to the second slide, and I'm going to let you take over, and thank you so much for doing this.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so this concept of resilience is really a buzzword that's been kind of gaining momentum and out there right now. And it's really topical today with this global crisis that we find ourselves in. So first, to start off with, what is resilience? Resilience is the ability to adapt well during adversity and bounce back from life's challenges. And some benefits of resilience. The research shows that resilience really helps mitigate the effects of stress. It helps us cope with stress. It lowers depression. It increases longevity and overall life satisfaction. So some really great benefits there. And it's also a key driver of success. You mentioned agentpreneurs being their own boss and being entrepreneurs, and that takes a lot of drive and motivation. So just inherently in that, I would just start off with celebrating your own resiliency right now and learning how to grow it. And why resilience matters, especially now. So life is not with adversity, even under normal circumstances, let alone in the middle of a global crisis right now. The disruption to people's lives is just astronomical, from everyday routines to employment security, perhaps not having childcare or school accessible, and even loved ones falling ill. The spectrum is quite wide in how people are being impacted by this right now. And in order to stay grounded and inspired, we really need to develop our resilience to not only get through this time, also to see that this is to see this time not as a lost time, but it's really an opportunity for growth. So in resilience research, there's this bell curve, and the great news is that the majority of us humans are really quite resilient, right in the middle there. That over time, most of us do bounce back. And on the tail end of that curve, there are negative effects from adversity. So some people might experience, anxiety, depression, and this is more longer term, not short term, or even develop post-traumatic stress disorder from a trauma or something like that. And then on the other end of that curve, the front end, there's something known as post-traumatic growth. And you don't need to go through an acute trauma to really access this, but it's this idea of leveraging adversity or a challenge into an opportunity to grow yourself, perhaps have a greater appreciation for life, to use that as fuel to move yourself forward and deepen your connection with others. And then
Vanessa,
finally,
if I could just interject there for a second, because that's a really interesting topic, this idea of post-traumatic growth. And, I think that, fortunately, in many ways, ListReports, we've sort of embodied that, right? We've looked at this as an opportunity and a catalyst for growth, and we've done more than ever before. And I think one of the things that we've been talking to all of our agents out there about is if you don't fall into that bucket, that's okay, but there's an opportunity for you to find people who are and to be inspired by them, right?
absolutely, yes. This isn't about, trying to be something that's not accessible to you in that moment. We all have the permission to be human, and you're absolutely right. It's about hopefully being inspired by others and creating that support network of other people who can help inspire you and move you forward as well.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Do you want me to go to the next slide?
I just want to make one more point here, that resilience is a muscle, thankfully. It's not something that you're either born with or you're not. There are definitely some genetic factors. Some people are just naturally more resilient than others. But the good news is that we can really develop certain behaviors and impact our thoughts and actions to move ourselves forward. So yeah, next slide would be great, please.
Okay.
Awesome. And so here I've broken it down into 3 key themes. So first, we need to be able to self-regulate, to show up and respond the way that we want to, even under stress and pressure. And next, it's shifting to a positive mindset. So kind of in what you were talking about before, Randy, it's not to deny or minimize difficulty or even guilt ourselves for feeling a certain way, but to keep ourselves moving forward and to access things like hope and moving toward possibility and to reap the mental and physical benefits that positive emotions have to offer. We can make these shifts in a conscious way when it serves us well. And then lastly, there's a sense of agency to focus first and foremost on what we can do and to take action there. So we can move into the next slide.
Okay,
and
ready to go.
Awesome, thank you. And to start off with self-regulation. So self-regulation is this ability to maintain your composure, to access clarity and your own integrity and respond well under pressure. So we don't want our emotions, our stress, our negative thinking to hijack who we are, how we want to show up, and how we're reacting to a situation. And so here are some simple ways to bolster your ability to self-regulate. These are just ideas, throwing some ideas out there. Really, it's about finding what works for you, starting small so that you can build a habit and build this into your daily life. So my first suggestion here is to carve out time for yourself. We're often really in reaction mode. We're constantly doing, life is really busy. I can only imagine that everything that agentpreneurs are handling right now, especially when we have, kids home, disruption to schedules, etc. So to set yourself up for success, I really recommend focusing on the bookends of the day. So in the morning, when you wake up, before you jump into that doing mode, to take time to really center yourself. Whatever works for you there. It could be quick breath meditation. It could be setting your intentions for the day, but to really center yourself before you move forward in your day. And another bookend is really in the evening before you go to sleep. So just to really de-stress and reflect on your day, you could do some breath meditation or a quick body scan, just something to kind of have that bookend before you go to sleep so you can leave the stresses of the day behind you. And this can be as short as you need, even a few minutes. It doesn't need to be, 20-minute meditation or something like that. I personally have not been able to fit that into my life right now. So it's really about focusing on what you can fit into your life so that you can stick with it. The next tip is weaving mindfulness into your day. And I recommend what I call everyday mindfulness cues. So again, along with that theme of doing things that you can actually commit to and fit into your day. So for me, I have certain cues that are really a signal for me to shift into the present moment. For me, that's brushing my teeth and doing the dishes. So when I'm doing those things, I've built this habit and this cue of, all right, I'm here, I'm present, I'm scanning my body. Do I have any tension that I need to let go? Take stock of how I'm feeling. Take some extra breaths if I need to slow down. And the key here is to find what reminders really work for you in your daily routine, something that can be that anchor point to help
Vanessa,
you shift into that.
If I could just interject, because I love that so much, right? You're not here saying, okay, everybody, 60 minutes every morning or whatever it is, right? You're going to carve out time to meditate. You acknowledge yourself. I've struggled with this as well, right? There's a lot of people in the company who are great at this. AJ, my co-founder, is very good at meditation, is well practiced in it, and I just can't seem to do it. So what I love about this practical tip is you're saying, okay, when I brush my teeth, when I do the dishes, right, that is an opportunity and a trigger to be reminded to take some of these actions. So it can be as easy as that, right? Just our normal day.
Absolutely, because there are still benefits there. And if mindfulness or any of these things become yet another to do and another source of pressure, it's not going to work. So, and if you're killing it and you want to add and plus yourself, awesome. That's definitely a great goal as well. And to move into the third tip, this is pretty simple as well. It's to create a to-be list alongside your to-dos. So as one of my prior teachers says, we're human beings, not human doings. So alongside your to-dos, jot down how you want to be that day. What qualities do you want to embody? How do you want to show up? And the key here is once you've articulated that, to think about some things that might get in your way and how you can handle those things. So that could be something as simple as, you have a really booked schedule that day. For me, I do have 2 young children. I often am very exhausted due to lack of sleep and things like that. So one of my to be themes is to be present and patient with my family. And some things that could get in the way is just the mayhem of my kids, if they're screaming, if I'm overscheduled, if I am feeling really exhausted and depleted. So my response in that moment, and I've trained my brain, is to get into this space of appreciation and gratitude. And that helps me just dissolve away the stress or the overwhelm that I'm feeling in that moment. We can move to the next slide. Awesome. And so this is really about shifting positive. So positive emotions help us broaden our thinking and move us to a more solutions-oriented state. When we're stressed, whether the threat is real or perceived, we literally narrow. So our vision and our thinking, it narrows. And that was an adaptive advantage and is still an adaptive advantage, for us and for our ancestors to survive. But in our current reality, we're bombarded with stressors that are not real threats all the time. We're constantly living in this state of stress. And so to broaden back into solutions and move forward, we need to cultivate our positive emotions. And again, to really reiterate here, that's not to say that we ignore our negative emotions or guilt ourselves for feeling those things. It's about having what's known as a yes and mentality. So yes, I am stressed. I am overwhelmed. And I don't want to be paralyzed by that. Now, how can I move forward? So to move into tips here, one of the most researched positive emotions is gratitude. People, listening in right now may have heard a lot about gratitude, and there's a reason for that. It's very well researched, and some benefits are gratitude increases our happiness. It has a positive impact on our physiological well-being. It improves our relationships, increases our optimism, and is a gateway really to finding meaning and purpose in life. And a common gratitude practice is called 3 good things. So every night before you go to bed, take time to sit down for a while and look back on your day. So you can think of 3 things that went well. The trick here is to try to write them down. Honest moment here, I have had a tough time committing to writing them down. What I do is I actually shift into a gratitude practice. My cue in the morning is when I turn on the shower. If you can write them down, definitely it's worth that time, because research shows that neurologically it really helps deepen those pathways. So write down what you did well and take a moment to reflect on each of those things and savor them. And if there's something that you can pinpoint what you did to contribute to that good thing. And another quick exercise is positive opposite. So if you're feeling an emotion like fear or stress and you want to feel the opposite way, first to identify what that positive emotion is for you. And it could be different. So for me, if I'm feeling, again, stressed or overwhelmed, it depends on the situation. I might want to feel at peace. I might want to feel centered. I might want to feel prepared if I'm stressed about a presentation or something coming up like that, right? So reflect on what that positive opposite is for you, and write down some specific actions that can help you move to that space. Again, it's going to be whatever that is for you. And just a note here, this is recommended if the negative emotion is doing more harm than good. If that negative emotion is a blockage and it's not serving you well at that time. And third, a great technique to move us to a more positive, broadened, action-oriented state is called worst case, best case, most likely. So here you break something down, perhaps, a big worry or something that your mind tends to ruminate on. Write down the worst case possible scenarios that your mind can conjure up. And here, the tip really is to go big. Don't limit yourself. So if I'm worried about, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. If I'm worried about not being able to access clients in person right now or grow my client base in that way, right? Some worst case scenarios could be, I'm never going to be able to grow my business. I'm going to fail. I'm not going to have my revenue stream, and I'm going to end up being homeless on the street, right? That's like a crazy thinking track, right? But to externalize that and put down those extreme thoughts that sometimes get trapped in our heads, and then when we see them on paper, we can see the silliness there sometimes. And then you add the percentage of the likelihood that those things would actually happen, and that's a really key step in this process as well. So once you've fleshed that out, then you move over to the best case scenario. So this is really an invitation to go big, have fun with it. So to use the same example, here we are in the midst of this global crisis. Everybody is stuck in front of their computers. So perhaps I'll get even more clients that I could have ever dreamed about. Perhaps I'll be able to save up for, this huge vacation that I've been really excited about. Maybe I'll be inspired to write a book and end up as a guest on Oprah someday. So it's about really going big, let your mind go crazy and have fun with it. And again, it's breaking down the percentages of, how likely is this to happen? And then from there, you move to the most likely scenario. So given all the facts of the situation, and now that I've externalize kind of my own crazy brains thinking, what's most likely to happen, the percentage of that happening. And then the final step here is, given the most likely scenario or scenarios, if there are multiple, jot down some actions that you can do to really plus that situation to make it the best that it can possibly be. And we can move to the next slide here. And the third thing is to own your agency. This is a really big piece. So the bottom line here is to always remember that we have more control than we think we do, and to focus not on the things that we can't control, but to let those go and to really funnel our energy, our time, our resources into the things that we can control. So, what thoughts do we entertain? What do we prioritize? What do we put into our bodies? These are just things that are accessible to us all the time, let alone the specifics of whatever it is that you might want to move forward on. And, our time, energy, those things, those are finite resources. So to be resilient, we need to let go of those things that we can't control and really focus on what we can do. And two simple exercises here. One is called I Can Handle It. And so it's a positive reflection on a prior adversity. So you identify something that was challenging for you in the past, that you endured and overcame. And, we all have those situations. We've all gone through challenges and adversity, right? So you reflect on that, identify what did you learn? How did you grow? What strengths or qualities did you use or learn or have access to because of that situation? And how might those things be of service to you right now, today? And the second exercise is to identify sources of what's known as depletion and repletion. So again, we have a finite amount of time and energy, and we wake up with a bucket full of energy reserves, or sometimes it feels like not so full, but we have a finite amount of energy there accessible to us when we wake up. And there's a leak at the bottom, right? And there are things that deplete us: stress, sleep deprivation, making decisions, needing to multitask, things like that. And that will drain our bucket faster. So we need to focus on what fills us up. So we're kind of mitigating those things throughout the day. What repletes us, what fills us up. So here, to take a minute to identify what really drains you. Usually these are themes. There are things that pop up day to day, but there might be some bigger things. So it can be, be draining your mental energy, your physical vitality, your sense of creativity. And the things that can drain you, they can be, tasks, people you might interact with, even your own mindset. So to write down a list of those things that really are a source of depletion, and then focus on what repletes you, what really fills you up. What recharges you, sparks you up, and to really commit to stop doing or mitigate, because sometimes we can't really stop those sources of depletion, but really mitigate the sources of depletion and focus on filling yourself up in the best ways that help you be your best self. And then that brings us here to this this foundation of social support. So in order to bolster resilience, we really need a network of supports, a system of supports. So we can do more and we fare better together. We don't have to go it alone. And sometimes we forget that. I've definitely been in that situation of just, feeling like I'm isolated in an experience or a challenge, and there's just numerous amounts of resources out there, whether it be people, even support groups, whatever it might be. There's so much out there. And the key here is to invest in and tend to a mutually supportive network. So not one-sided. You really want to grow a mutually supportive network. And some quick tips here to schedule daily outreach, especially right now. It's so important. I've been hearing this theme pop up quite a bit, but we don't have access to face-to-face interaction, and we weren't built to have that not be part of our lives. Some people are more social than others. We still need that interaction with people, no matter how much of an introvert a person might be. So here we can take advantage of face-to-face technology, FaceTime, Zoom, etc., in the absence of in-person. And so one of the key things here I want to mention is texting is different. It's a good way to keep in touch and informed back and forth with people, but it doesn't really have that same impact as connecting in a way that's face-to-face. And then finally, we need to be okay to ask for help when we need it. That's not a sign of weakness. That's actually a component of being resilient, is to recognize, hey, I need help right now, and to actually go out and ask for it. And then we can be uplifted by helping others. So as we have the opportunities and resources to do so, to really be a source of inspiration and help for others as those opportunities arise.
You know, what's interesting, Vanessa, just to the point of reaching out is, one of the news stories from today had some data about that, which is, 65% of people say they are basically communicating with friends and family by phone, text, or email, quote, basically every day, right? And so it's been one of the really interesting byproducts of this is we've talked to people who have connected with their family more often than before, with their friends more often than before, right? The limitations actually created this amazing opportunity to reconnect with people in ways that we just weren't doing before.
Absolutely. That's so beautifully said. And I 100% agree. It's wonderful.
Well, you have this great quote here. I want to make sure we get to this. I'm gonna pull this up because I love this slide and I love this quote so much. I can't even tell you.
Awesome. Yeah, this really speaks to me. So to kind of sum it all up, here's this quote. It's life is not about waiting for the storm to pass. It's about learning how to dance in the rain. And that's really what this is all about, is learning how to be the best versions of ourselves and use our situation to our advantage in the ways that we can, to set ourselves up to be stronger, to be more fueled by what we can do, and use that as momentum to move ourselves forward.
Beautiful. It's just, I love that. Maybe we'll make you know what? We should make a shareable out of that. You don't probably
Awesome.
know what shareables are. We have these shareable social media things. Bree, if you're listening, we should make a shareable out of that because that's such a great quote. I
Awesome.
love
Yeah.
that. I love that.
Please do.
So we do have a question. Says, under the current circumstances, what is your advice for remaining resilient and not falling into bad habits while stuck at home? I think you've touched on some of these things, but it's an interesting question.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people are struggling with that. So it really depends on the specifics, but I would say keeping the energy and the momentum and your approach to the day as if you were still doing what you were doing before this crisis, right? So I'm all about, having my morning routine in the morning. And especially, with my two kids, that's a feat in and of itself. So to really have a structure to your day, what I've done is I build in time. It used to be more time, and I've gotten it down even further, but build in time to just let yourself explore the news or social media or whatever it might be, but to have a container for that time for you to do whatever the things are that have become potentially bad habits. That was a big source for me, because I would look at the news, I would get sucked into a black hole, time wise and even emotionally. So I had to say, okay, no, let me create and define a clear container for that particular bad habit. So I have permission to look at the news and all of that, but it has a clear start point and an end point.
That's great advice. And I think so much of it is about that, right? I mean, when we talk about the real estate business, on the show, a lot of it is about building the right habits, right? Top agent comes on and says,
Right.
okay, every day I do 2 hours of this and 2 hours of this, or, yesterday there's a 5-4-3-2-1 plan, right? But those habits are critical, not just for our business, but in what you're arguing, and for our mental health, right? These trigger points. When I brush my teeth, I'm going to think about this. And I love that, because these habits, if you commit to them, and you don't have to do them very long scientifically for them to become actual habits, you can transform the way that you operate, you think, and you can get your mind in the right space. They're super powerful.
Absolutely.
Vanessa, I want to pull up here on the screen right now a worksheet. So you have this real life resilience worksheet, which we're going to post in the comments, and you were generous enough to provide to us. So why don't you talk a little bit about what this worksheet is and how to use it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So this is basically pulling together just a few of the exercises, the tips that we've talked about today. So you can print it out, or you can just leave it on your screen and use them as prompts in your journal, whatever you want to do. But it's a place to kind of contain some of these tips here. So the first is a to be list. So again, we talked about alongside your to dos to write down how you want to be that day. What qualities do you really want to embody? What could get in the way of that, and how can you plan to overcome those potential setbacks? We also have a spot where you can write down your personal everyday mindfulness cues. My sheet, would be exactly what we talked about, of brushing my teeth and washing my dishes, and then I mentioned
Yeah.
my shower is my cue for moving into my gratitude practice. And then the third one is that positive opposite concept and closing the gap. So if you're feeling a negative emotion that is getting in your way and not serving you well, identify what that is, identify the specifics of the positive opposite, how you really do want to feel, what you want to move toward, and then articulating some actual steps that you can use to shift positive into that space.
Fantastic. So we've actually posted that in the comments, so that's available. That's really great. I want to make sure that people know how to get in touch with you if they would like to do that, and I would encourage them to do that. So you can actually go to Vanessa's website. It is vanessasestina.com. I have it up right here, and people can get in touch with you if they want to. And I think you do coaching and seminars. And why don't you talk a little bit about what you offer and how you can be helpful to our agentpreneurs?
Absolutely. Thank you. Yes, people are welcome to go out and see a bit more about me and the services I offer. So right now, I have a couple more spots for coaching clients. So if somebody's in need of coaching, and just a quick one-liner about what coaching is, it's about identifying where you are and where you want to be, and the steps that you can take to get you there. So if you or someone is in need of coaching, I am offering a discount during this crisis. If people have lost their income, it's changed, etc. Really a sliding scale of what can people afford, because I think this type of support is really important right now.
Yeah.
I also do offer workshops if there's anyone who knows a team, an organization who could really benefit from these types of messages.
I think we might be one of them, by the way.
I think the whole world, there's just there's so much good information out there, and it's really just about like getting it out to everybody. So that's an option as well.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you so much for that. I just pulled up a comment from Mallory. She's actually our head of people, and she said, this is amazing advice. So I'm pretty sure she's probably going to reach out if she hasn't already. Oh, that's great. Vanessa, thank you so much for just taking the time to do this. You're super passionate about it, and I think it's such an amazing message anytime in particular right now. And I think you've given everybody some really practical, tangible advice on how to become more resilient. And like I said, I keep repeating it, but I love this idea that when I brush my teeth, I'm going to get in the right mindset, or you're going to be present and mindful and do a body scan before, I don't know, I eat dinner, whatever it might be. Whatever works for you is sort of the point though, right? You need to accomplish these things, but do them in a way that works for you and your schedule.
Absolutely. Keep it simple, build the habit, as simple as you can, to make sure that you actually get to it. So I'm going to follow up. I want to know what your mindfulness cues end up being.
Oh no, accountability was not part of the deal, but that's totally fair. I think that's great. Vanessa, again, thank you so much for your time for this critically important message. I see lots of hearts flying, so I think it's really resonating with people. And just thank you so much for everything.
Thank you. Right back at you. I really appreciate the opportunity to be on today. And to the agentpreneurs, you and everybody else out there, I just want to say, may you be happy and healthy, safe and resilient. Thank you.
I can't think of a better way to end this show. Thank you, Vanessa. We'll talk to you real soon, I hope.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode with Vanessa Sestina. Again, we're going to post a link to her page and her materials in the comments so you have access to that. She is tremendous. She brings so much amazing energy, and I really love the message that she brought, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. So until tomorrow, be safe, be healthy, be happy, and we'll see you soon. Bye.